You're wrong. You're wrong. Okay. Check, check, check. All right. We are live. Check, check, check. Okay. Hello, folks joining, and um, just getting things squared away. So we'll be kicking off in about 10 minutes. I hope. Okay, let's get desktop audio going. So desktop audio going. So desktop audio going. So bang. Okay, that got weird. Alright, so desktop audio is going so that my Google Meet folks can chime in when they need to. My mic is going so everybody can gloriously hear me. Um, let's see. Let's get the agenda up here. Make the brief switch there. Yeah, okay. We'll give it another couple of minutes here just to let some folks filter in, and then we'll kick off all the excitement. Okay, we'll go ahead and get things kicked off here, and just start kind of chatting as other folks filter into the stream. So, hello everybody, and welcome into the WiscWeb September Lunch and Learn. My name is Matt Goins with the WiscWeb team. You can kind of see what the agenda is right now that we're going to chat about. Like I said, it's a light agenda. Some of these things we can talk about will be um, pretty quick and pretty straightforward. Um, Otherwise, we'll kind of take some questions from the chat and kind of just meander as we do sometimes with our conversations. Um, so the first item of note that we wanted to touch on, I guess the first item of note is welcome back to classes. To start the semester off, I hope everybody is doing okay, safe, healthy, etc. I know it's daunting for some and stressful for some, so I hope everybody's doing okay. I'm living the dual life of working and taking care of um, kids who are doing virtual learning as well. So it's been an interesting week for me, and I'm imagining that's not unique to some of you. Um, first thing to touch on is the a conversation that has come up several times with us over the past couple of weeks, and then it also got thrown into the community of practice email list, which is the idea of putting banners on your site, and then also the idea of that smart restart banner that some of you have seen on some of the other sites that exist within the wisc.edu domain. Um, so I'll touch on the banners in general aspect of it first, just to kind of go over what some of the things that you can kind of look at in regards to creating your own banner for your site if you want to, and then I'll come back to the Smart Restart banner just to give some general conversation about that aspect. So um, one of the things that we did recommend is using a banner somewhat akin to what we do down here. Now we have it down further in our WiscWeb site to touch on this item. Let me just increase that zoom size a little bit so people can see a little bit better. But all this is it's a one column layout with a text block page element, and the text inside of there is centered, and then this right here is a headline that can be applied to a content layout. And again, I'll kind of go into this in a little bit. But this is one of the ways that you can do your own sort of banner on your site um, to kind of bring attention to some information that you might want. Again, Smart Restart is the big thing that we're going to talk about today, but we use it for the purpose of we're not doing manifest groups or NetID authentication on pages with our sites anymore. So, but what you could do is you could move it up to this area right here, remove your hero image. Again, the idea is that this is a temporary thing, so the hero image can always be brought back, but you could put this sort of banner idea up here at the top, and I'll kind of go through how I would build that. So I'd have a one column layout. As I said, the column layout itself, if you click on the gear icon, you can put in a headline. So, important update, and then down below, oops, didn't mean to do that. Center, UW-Madison Smart Restart. Oh boy, Smart Restart. Do it live, they say. Restart. Please visit, and then I'm not sure I can grab the URL here in a second, but please visit this link here. Obviously, you wouldn't type that in. And so also up here now you notice that you have a background choice option, and you could change this. Be cautious with changing these colors because sometimes they may have some issues with just context, contrast, not contest, contrast with accessibility. The one that we have on the Whisk website, it's the Badger red there, and so that's essentially it. You could add in an image if you wanted to, or something of that note. But if I just click Save Draft, and then click blurry. Sorry, I just read Michael's thing. Click preview. It's probably blurry because I have a gigantic monitor, so I'll zoom in. Another thing that you can do, all right, this is going to get weird because we're going to start watching the stream as I'm delivering the stream. One of the things that I do is down here in the settings area, there is a gear icon and the quality. Now, this works for me. The quality always defaults to about medium, but you can change that quality if you want. So, right, as you can see, obviously I have the I have the quality set to the highest, but that's that. Yeah, I know it's that's why I said it's going to get a little weird here. So that might help with some of the quality as well, but I'll also zoom in quite a bit. I have a very large monitor here, so that might be the issue there. So anyways, coming back over to this guy. So this is what it would look like. Now, obviously on your home page, you won't see this. You won't see this. You would just see your menu here, and then right beneath that you could have this important update, and then whatever information you wanted to put in here. So the other thing to uh, consider is the hero area. You could create a hero image that has some of this information in it. So you could put something up here and maybe do the featured content inset aspect of it. Um, the only thing that I would caution against when using a a hero image to deliver something that is text based is the fact that um, uh, anything that you put text on an image, you have to make sure that either you are also putting that content in a like a text area on the page itself, or you have to make sure you're using strong alt text for those images because visually impaired people, they're not going to be able to see the text that's on that image. They're going to be relying on the alt text or the content on the page itself. So you want to make sure you're delivering that content in another way as well as just the hero image. So for a visual impact, a hero image might work for that type of information that you want to deliver. But then at the same time, you have to make sure that you're thinking about your whole audience, not just your visual audience there. Um, so again, those are two options for a sort of banner idea on your site. The third option is the one that kind of came up during the Community of Practice email thread, which is the ability for WiscWeb specifically for us to add the Smart Restart banner that currently exists with the instructional continuity site and a couple of others, but um, this is the one that I remember off the top of my head. So it's this banner up here at the top. Again, I'll zoom in so we can see it quite a bit more. So we use Google Tag Manager to deliver this content to sites that you could reach out to us and request that we apply this to your site, and I'll touch on that in a second. But essentially what this is it's just an overlay banner that has the ability to cookie the dismissal for 8 hours. So a person could click that and it won't show up again for 8 hours, and the information would be there or it's gone. Um, and then the learn more takes the user to the smartrestart.wis.edu page in and of itself. So this is also something that we can apply. So the question came out after I had mentioned that we use Google Tag Manager for this aspect is, people may be interested in trying to use Google Tag Manager to do something like this on their own. I would really caution against doing something like that for a couple of reasons. One, you have to know your code. This is all based on scripting that Jonathan Dietering did for us, our developer. And I've looked at it and I have zero clue what's going on in that code. I know it works. I know how it works. I'm not sure how it's being done with the code itself. So I really caution people against doing things with like pop-ups and stuff like that through Google Tag Manager because it could cause some errors on your pages, and we can't support it. We can't support what you're doing with that stuff because it's Google Tag Manager. It's scripting that we don't allow in general. So I just want to make sure I caution people against trying to do this kind of stuff on their own versus reaching out to us to apply this banner through our Google Tag Manager stuff. Because we have it set up so that we can apply this to any site that exists within the WiscWeb sort of service. But it is something that you could request for us to do. Just send an email to the support list, and honestly, all I would need from you is, you'll send it as yourself, and then just say, please apply the Smart Restart banner to my site, and then I just need your site URL. So, whatever.wis.edu or whatever.department.wis.edu, because basically what I do is I copy and paste that information into the tag to then start applying it. So I'll kind of hold off there and see if any questions rolling about that. But that was the first topic that I wanted to touch on, was just kind of go over this, I guess, pertinent information now, given what's going on with campus and the smart restart and things like that, and not knowing how it might affect you guys. Um, you know, putting this information out there in some way for your audience to see, I think, is pretty important. So, TikTok, TikTok. Just kind of seeing if anybody has any thoughts or anything like that in the chat there. So, and again, dismiss goes away for 8 hours now, and it cookies that, and the tag still exists. And then, in 8 hours, it will reset the cookie within your browser, and it will be back. So again, if you are interested in that, go ahead and drop us an email. Sorry, trying to make this bigger because I saw that people said that this was a little bit blurry, and I think it's just because of my gigantic screen size. So that's the Smart Restart banner. Give the stream a refresh if you're still seeing some issues with the tunnel of me. Using a banner with the inset shows up super different on other devices. I definitely stopped using a photo inside the inset. Yeah, so that's one good point, Kelly, is that when you do use the inset with the hero image, and you bring this down to mobile size, that stacks beneath the hero itself, so the hero still shows up there, but then that information goes below it. So that is something to be aware of. That's a good thing to point out, because of the fact that, yeah, mobile devices will react differently to those. It's still there, but you have to scroll down a little bit more to see it. Bum, 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 bum. Yes, Laura. To remove the banner, just send us an email to get rid of it, and I can just remove the site from there. Okay, so we'll kind of go on. I can still, if you have questions, go ahead and keep throwing them in there. I'll just go on because the next couple of topics are still kind of quick, and just kind of go over. I'd have to see, Kelly. I'll have to do some testing on my own. I have a couple of iPhones here that I can do that testing with. So plugin updates. We are currently in the process of testing in our QA environment Gravity Forms and the events calendar. So we will be rolling out those updates soon. I don't think either of those have any major changes in their change logs. And Jenna, I know you've already run through the testing. If you have seen anything, let me know. But otherwise, we'll be updating those coming up soon. We're in a change freeze right now, so the plugin updates will go out maybe in a week or a couple weeks. Can't remember when the change freeze ends, but it's quite a long one for us. So those are coming. Just letting you guys know. We try to test everything. When the updates go out, we'll communicate it out to you guys, and then just hope that you all take a look at what you have for content, and then go from there. In light of the events calendar conversation, something that came up in some troubleshooting, and I'll have to yield to Jenna and Phil on this conversation because I'm not quite sure how we got here and what the outcomes were. But essentially, one of the things that you have to be aware of when you're using the events calendar in your site is you have to make sure that you're not changing the time zones for the settings of that particular site, because what will happen is it will throw off any past events that you had, and it will change them to have a it'll be a weird time frame there. So in your events settings, you have a time zone mode, and there are options in here for you to change for these to be changed. And one of the issues that we ran into was the time zone was changed for one site, and then the events being created moving forward were off by like, I can't remember, it was like 5 or 6 hours. Phil just jumped into here, and I know he was the one who was troubleshooting and looking at this, so I will allow him to unmute himself to chat. Hello,
Sure.
Phil. Hi.
Hi, folks. I am no longer chatting in the YouTube chat. I am now verbally chatting. So the real thing, there's a couple of things going on with the time zone stuff. The first thing is that I think this goes way back now. We hadn't realized that the time zone by default for sites may not have been set to, like, I think it's basically Chicago or Central Time. And so at least for sites where this is where you are and this is where your primary audience is in this time zone, it's not immediately obvious that that's a thing that's off. Some people had noticed things like this where just like they do a post and it says that their post is at 5 p.m., but that's actually UTC time. It's actually not 5 p.m. Central Time. Things like that. The events calendar ends up being a much more of a kind of a nightmare around that, though, because you do things like you set a time from this is supposed to run from noon until 5 p.m. And if it's noon to 5 UTC, that's not noon to 5 Central. And then as Matt mentioned, you have these situations where if that hasn't been squared away when you begin using events calendar and you enter hundreds of events, you now at some point may figure out or decide that we should actually be all using the Central Time, especially with everybody being remote. So like the time zone time zone working and not everybody's actually in Central, even for students when they're coming to these things or the people across the country and stuff or across the world. It's now a deal, and then you have this sort of problem of like, all right, either I go back and I fix or I update all of our past events, or we just leave them, if you will, and just make sure that all the ones going forward are the same. Now, this also is coupled with the fact that we've got a handful of plugins that are incredibly complex, and this one is no exception. Events Calendar is very interesting in how it tries to pay attention to how updates are done. And the specific situation that arose with this is that, as best I could tell, our team didn't go through and like set everybody to Chicago who had not been set to Chicago or Central Time Zone. And yet the plugin appears to have, I'm going to say air quote, woke up one day and decided, oh, hey, actually, I am supposed to pay attention to that. I'm not going to start doing things in UTC anymore. And so this was an unintentional thing where the customer that was then forced into all right, either I change all the time zones on the past things, or I stick with the Central going forward, and any new events, I need to make sure any new ones that haven't happened yet are actually corrected. And then it also turns out that because you can use RSS feeds to produce those lists, there are other systems that were this data about the events was being fed to that previously had been using UTC, which was -5 right now. -5 UTC is Central right now. And those systems had already put in an adjustment so as if they were Central Time. And so it messed all those up too. So they had that events not, future events not showing up on these other downstream systems in the right time as well. So, sorry, super long story short is that when you begin using Events Calendar, it is very important for you to be aware of all of the time zone settings and that all of them are actually what you want them to be for your site. Most people, that's going to be it's set to Central. I think it's usually listed as Chicago time zone, and that's going to follow daylight savings time also. And that's maybe another really important point. UTC doesn't have a daylight savings time concept, but everything actually works as expected when you've got that set to Central. some people Central is not the right thing because maybe they have a multidisciplinary group with different universities, and the main center is located in California. Well, then, Central is maybe not the right time zone that you want to say everything is to begin with.
Yeah.
Um, so, long story. If you've got more questions, put them in the chat. We can talk about it. But
Yeah.
when you start using Events Calendar, it's very important to familiarize yourself with the time zones because you might be put in a situation if you're going to make hundreds of events that you need to do a switch at some point if you started in the wrong place.
Yeah. So I I fell victim to this
Okay.
in the past because with all of my various events that I create, open labs, trainings, lunch and learns, things of that nature, I came in here and actually tinkered with this and ended up having, some of my trainings were at like 5 in the morning or something like that, and so it's just be aware of the fact that these settings are set a specific way. Going in and changing them may have some unforeseen issues, so be careful when you go in and change them, and make sure you're checking all of your content when you do make any changes like that, because of the fact that it's hard to say whether or not it had the effect that you intended, or if it really broke some things for you there. So we saw that come up. We know that again we've started the school year. Things are happening. We just want people to be aware of some of those different pieces of information there. Um, quick check of the chat. Um, a couple of things I should have mentioned. Bouncing back up here. Um, the smart restart banner that we can do via Google Tag Manager is not customizable. It is set by us. The information provided in it is approved messaging from University Marketing, which is why it is set the way that it is. Honestly, if you guys are going to be creating your own banners, I would try to stay as close as possible to campus messaging so that everyone's on the same page. We kind of had that conversation back in March when we did the initial COVID-19 banner for all of WiscWeb service. We wanted one message, and we wanted that message to be the one that was the campus message. So if you are going to put some information out there, I know you might have some specific information for your department or your area. Um, that's fine, but try to make sure that anything that you're putting out there is in line with what campus policy is also messaging out. Because we don't want people getting confused or getting two sides of a message based on, you know, not to jump too far out of the realm of possibility, but different feelings of what should be happening on campus versus what is happening on campus. And so we want to make sure that it is the campus message that's going out there and not anything else. So that soapbox gotten off of. Last significant topic is just again a reminder slash refresher on sensitive and restricted data. Please, 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 do not collect any sensitive or restricted data via gravity forms. We had this conversation last month. I'm going to keep poking this particular topic moving forward. We know a lot of information is being collected from your audience via Gravity Forms, even via Google Forms, and even via Qualtrics. There's lots of different ways to create form submissions out there. Please make sure that you're aware of what the various rules are for sensitive and restricted data. Again, specifically for us, Gravity Forms is what we use for data collection, for information collection. That mail form also gets stored within our databases, which means that anybody who has access to your site and potentially anybody who has access to the WiscWeb service could get access to that data, which means it is not secured. and so therefore you should not be collecting anything that is considered a sensitive or restricted data item. We did have a KB doc out there for this. I'm not going to zoom in too much because you can go to this on your own, but um, it is KB doc 98242. It is also on it's one of the top KB docs down here. Um, so we just want to make sure that you're aware of that. And then this KB doc also links out to the campus IT data policies as well. So just be aware of this. Please, please don't collect this information. Um, we really don't want to have to, um, you know, go through and do anything drastic to that data, remove it, anything like that. Just make sure you're not collecting it so that it's not a concern at all. Our hope is to have someone from campus security, from cybersecurity, um, sit down and have like a little presentation, a conversation with us slash you guys. We're still working on scheduling that or finding the right time for that. So that's something that we're looking forward to into the future. But for now, there's the information right there. Please don't collect any of that information. And let's see. That being said, support options. As always, you can reach us through our support email, cms-support at doit.wisc.edu. A lot of you have been uh, sending in tickets, and you've been interacting with one of our newer faces slash voices on the team, Dan Ibarra. He's been helping us out with our support list, with our support tickets. Um, as always, you can reach out through Microsoft Teams. We have that open lab channel if you wanted to ask some questions in there, or most of you know me, so I'm more than happy to have you reach out to me if you just need to have like a little conversation about some things, kind of the same stuff that we would do via the open lab idea. I'm trying to look at ways for us to redo the open labs in this new virtual world. Um, so that's something that hopefully we'll be able to kick off again in the future sometime. And then lastly, the community of practice, wp@list.wisc.edu. That is the WordPress community of practice group. Quite a few people who are in the chat now and who are our regulars at these lunch and learns are also a part of the community of practice. It's a good spot to just throw out some thoughts, throw out some ideas, throw out some questions about the way people do things, or some general, I guess, guidance on WordPress in general, content management in general, those kind of things. And we also look at it. The WiscWeb team does. We look at it, and for questions regarding WiscWeb that get thrown out there, we'll chime in when we see a need to. So, all right, quick tour around the room. Jenna, anything that you'd like to add?
No, I think that pretty much covers it, but happy to answer any questions that come up.
Phil, anything you'd like to add?
Just a random thing I'll put in chat,
Okay.
which has nothing to do with the WiscO CMS, just a good thing for IT
Excellent.
people to be aware of.
Excellent.
Via cybersecurity. So.
Oh yes, yeah. There's lots of stuff out there. Let's see. David, anything that you'd like to add?
No, sir, I am good.
I'm going to do a tour of the team here. So that's David Niles. He's one of our developers. And then Scott, anything you'd like to add?
Nope, I'm good, Matt.
All right, that's Scott Berg. So
I appreciate it.
that's right. Make sure our whole team gets some get some airtime. It doesn't need to just be my voice. All right, Linda, you have a question. Phil, can you address what Linda asked? Are we supposed to use Central Time or UTC? Someone came in the room when Phil was talking, and I know you had gone into like the considerations of time zones regarding your target audience and your target content.
The general recommendation, there are exceptions, is that you would want to use the time zone that your audience mostly cares about. So in a lot of cases, for 90% of the sites we end up hosting, that's Central Time. I think it usually shows up in WordPress as like Chicago
Yep.
Central Time.
Yeah. So most folks,
And you want to start there.
yeah, most folks won't get the opportunity to tinker around with that setting specifically. Our sites default to the Chicago, so the site time defaults to Chicago Central Time. The events calendar settings go to manual, but those manual values are essentially 12 p.m. That's what it does, and then it says 12 p.m. for the audience that's viewing it. Um, it doesn't offset based on that. So if I choose 12 p.m. and somebody in Los Angeles looks at this, they'll also see 12 p.m. It's not going to offset it by time zone for that. Same idea here, site-wide time zone, but in that case, if I choose 12 p.m. and my system is set to East Coast time, it will offset it appropriately based on where you're viewing it. So, this is the world I live in whenever I create my events, and it has worked okay for me. But honestly, like Phil was saying, my audience is you guys here on campus, or here in quote unquote Madison area. So that's worked for me, but I haven't had to worry about a wider audience for that.
The full gory like technical thing to mention. Again, I said it during my too long part. Not all of the sites started with that set. Any new sites we have, we're setting them to that central Chicago time zone. So it is possible for a site to have missed one of our sweeps to try to get things set up to be Chicago, but they would have to be an existing site already. The other thing is, as Matt mentioned, is like that is a setting that could be changed. So some sites have intentionally chosen, like I said, like a time zone that made more sense for their primary audience. Just to be aware that there's a lot of layers to how that works, especially with the events calendar, because you can also, as Matt said, take the default. You can change what it thinks the default is, and you can also change on a per event basis as well.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Trying to think of other things that have come in recently just to address them now with our wider audience, just questions that have come in. I'm trying to think. Jenna, anything that you can think of from tickets that have come in that's been a common theme?
That's a great question. I think the banner thing was the big one.
Yeah.
Um,
I have gotten
Oh.
several emails sent to me about adding users. We've just got sites that are being passed on, handed down, new admins or editors. Just remember that you all have the ability to add users by NetID, so you don't have to worry about anything other than knowing their NetID and what level of access you want them to have. So you put that in, that gets them into there. Also, although this is going to look much more gory because of my view, but you have the ability to activate or deactivate plugins. So let's see here. Sitemaps, gravity forms, redirection, and events calendar. Oh, and WP data tables. Those all are activatable by you. admins. So you can activate or deactivate those as you see fit. So, sorry, Jenna, go ahead.
I was just thinking about the 502 thing,
Oh, the 502 thing.
the error, the bad gateway.
Yeah, I know. I'm waiting for you to expand because
Oh,
I don't know how to best explain it because I don't have my mind wrapped around it yet.
well, we'll just have Phil
Phil, explain it.
come in when I misexplain it. But some of you have been reporting, very small number, but some of you have been reporting running into like a 502 bad gateway error as you're doing your edits. This is likely a denial of service related error. Basically, the system is suspecting that it is under attack due to the sheer number of the traffic that's coming in. So this is usually because you're making multiple updates in quick, rapid succession, and so the same IP address is hitting it multiple times, and it thinks that it's like a bot or something. So it's kind of like shutting that down, and this will clear after about 10 minutes. But in general, I think the thing to be aware of is that this usually comes up when people are just making tons of edits, and it just triggers the response. And one way that people are doing this is they're opening multiple tabs in their browser with multiple pages and then updating them all at once, kind of. So it's just hitting the same IP is hitting it within a matter of seconds. So definitely don't recommend that approach because you will run into this issue. And for more background on like why, I think Phil can jump in on that.
Sure. So part of the changes we're making for moving to a new load balancer type, which I think we detailed many months ago to try to be better protected against botnets. One of the things that happens is that the result of lots of hits coming in from a single source, so a single IP address, you have a different behavior. So as opposed to on the old load balancer, you just get a whole bunch of 403 errors, which a few people have run into those for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's like the mod security rules that all of you helped us try to get exceptions in place for. That's what it looked like previously. In the case of the denial of service attack protections, if there is more than 60, I'm just going to say PHP is probably the easiest way. So 60 PHP requests in a minute, the IP address, so the source, gets flagged as being, hey, that they're asking for lots of stuff really fast. Now, this doesn't happen for images, so you could ask for 1,000 images a second, and that's not going to run into it. But PHP requests will do that. In some cases, as Jenna said, if you've got like a couple of tabs open and you're hitting, save update, and click on all of those in order to do a few things at a time, that could be one of those situations. I think on QA we had the regenerate thumbnails plugin. Because it makes a lot of requests pretty fast, also ran into that. We've got some ways to get around that. So as you folks, come into that, if it is like I had a whole bunch of tabs open, you might just need to move a little bit slower with that. But let us know, right? If that's your normal workflow and that's what you're bumping into, let us know, because these limits are things that can be massaged. We don't want to, we want to protect ourselves from people who are definitely not supposed to be making that many requests. But you as an editor, if there's anything we can do to try to either put in additional exceptions or raise the limits for editing things specifically, let us know. And then, so if you do that if there's more than 60 requests in a minute, it gets flagged and it gets blocked for 10 minutes. Now, that's by the source IP address. So if you've got an emergency update, and we had, this can happen, right? You have an emergency update to do, which is why you had so many tabs open maybe. And if you bump into that, get a different IP address. The easiest way to do that, because we require campus IP for VPN, is to probably disconnect your VPN and then reconnect again. In my case, I've got a static VPN, so I can actually switch between the dynamic one, which usually changes when you reconnect. It doesn't always, but it usually changes when you reconnect. And then static was the other one that I've got, but the dynamic one usually reconnects. It's probably a bit more info, but the new load balancer type results in a 502 because the web server is refusing to talk to the load balancer on your behalf for that 10-minute period. So that's how that happens. We're also taking a look at the IP ranges that campus has. Like the VPN stuff has changed since we had to start doing a bunch of remote stuff back in March. And we've got to go through and just make sure that we've got all those ranges added, because in some cases people are hitting some more restrictions than even should have been necessary, because we haven't they keep updating, either adding new additional ranges because more people end up on VPN, which makes sense with people coming back to school. So if you got more questions, go ahead and hit me in the chat and I can try to answer them more succinctly.
I also added a link to the chat there. Please disregard the first one because I forgot that it has our internal path there, so it won't work for you. But that second link has more information. We do try to maintain documentation for each of these errors that you might run into in WiscWeb so that you have an understanding of what it is and what to do if you see them. So just a reminder to check the KB if you're running into these. One thing to note, however, is that the KB search is not great with numbers. So if you're getting an error that has a number associated with it, try searching the letters. So like bad gateway in this case would be more helpful than typing in 502. If you type in 502, I don't think it actually comes up, unfortunately. Or you could check on the left-hand side of our key hub. We have a little box that says error, or a little link that says error messages, and all of them are listed there.
Oh, did you put that in our Hangout chat? Oh no, that's I don't. Yeah, Jenna, I haven't seen any links come through in the Google chat or the YouTube chat.
I don't know why it's not going in. I put it in the YouTube chat, but I guess if you just go to our KB space, which is kb.wisc.edu/WiscWebCMS, and click on error messages on the left, it will show up there. It should also show up as one of the most recently updated docs on that main page.
YouTube might be filtering the link out of chat. Matt, you should post it since you're the host.
Oh, well. Okay, then. Ha-ha! My apologies. I guess maybe not my apologies, but at the same time, sorry. There, I put it in there, and then also, like Jenna said, if you just go to RKB, it's error messages over here, but it's also one of the most recent updated. Hey, there's a fancy thought too. Oh, Phil also said fancy. That's weird. We're trying to, I guess, meet as many needs as we can through the knowledge base, just given our team size and the various questions that do come in. If there are some things that you would like to see on our knowledge base, some expansion or improvements or additions or anything like that, let us know that too, because essentially what we want the KB to be is your one-stop for anything that you might have, but it's always hard to anticipate what that is, what questions come in, what how-tos come in, things of that nature. Reach out to us, let us know, because we have some additional help, with Dan, and then potentially some other student help coming down the line, which we might be able to leverage that to improve the KB for you guys. So let us know what works, what doesn't work, what could be added, things of that nature. Phil, did you see Michael's question in the chat?
I did. I don't have a short answer.
Okay.
I have a bunch of very long answers. Most of which sounds a lot like decisions about how we had originally set that up, and that's pretty much what we got now, were made when we weren't all full remote.
Yeah.
So the whole intent of having some restrictions like that in place was to reduce the attack surface, to use the cybersecurity terminology. We're trying to limit the number of the world internet IP addresses that can actually get to the juicy good stuff and the service, and that was the intent behind that. Yeah, it's a great question. If we've got another batch of how do we make this simpler for everybody, protecting WP admin specifically is one of the gold standards of trying to stop people from attacking. Because even if there is a 0-day, very little interesting stuff as far as changing or taking over a system happens outside of WP admin. So that's where that's at. Probably, Mike, the rest of my questions for you are some more info about what is confusing or difficult, or just like what are you hearing from your editors about that being that extra step. I know some folks, it's like quote unquote campus VPN isn't the VPN they normally use, and that's like a good example of like, oh well, then we can add additional ranges or lists of IP addresses that could have that same level of I can get in there. It is probably unlikely though that we'd be doing things like adding all the swaths of like Charter IP or AT&T IP or something like that. But yeah, if you have more information about what you've been hearing or what the difficulties have been, even if it's just like I forgot that I can't get there without VPN on, and I don't normally use VPN for much of anything, or I don't use that VPN for everything else that I do. More info would certainly help out. And thank you for the comment, because that's a great question. Is there a better way for us to do that?
Okay. Anything else in the chat? Nope. Okay, we still filled almost 50 minutes worth of content with not much to talk about. I love chatting with you guys. So that'll be it for this month. We can hang out if any more questions come in. As I said, if you have questions and nothing was able to be answered in this, or if you're just looking for some further guidance, some further information, don't hesitate to reach out to us through email, Teams, whatever. Me through Teams. I won't throw everybody else out there for Teams chat, but I'm more than happy to be that point of contact through Teams if you guys have questions there as well. We'll see about an October lunch and learn. I think Jenna, when is our ETA on a theme update?
Sorry, unmuting.
That's fine.
It's September 17th.
So we will have a theme update coming up in a week. I don't have off the top of my head all the things that are going to be going into it, but that might be a topic for next month, as well as perhaps some more theme updates that we chat about from there. There's lots of things in the backlog that both we and UW Marketing are trying to work through, but given the state of the world right now, some things have taken higher priority than the theme updates. But we're hoping to make some changes that are somewhat significant to it, and will hopefully be some nice quality of life improvements moving forward, some accessibility stuff, some content stuff, things of that nature. So that we can chat about that in October. Who knows what'll change in the next few weeks. So tentatively, we will still have one in October. November, we'll see about that one, just because we're getting into tight time for everybody in regards to holidays and things of that nature. So, yeah, I guess the last bullet point on there for everybody is just stay safe, keep healthy, keep sane. I guess it's kind of crummy that we had great weather for many weeks, and then the school year starts and it decided it wanted to be awful outside. So it's kind of hard to get the mental health breaks outside in the sunshine right now. But yeah, reach out to us if you have any questions, if you have any concerns. Otherwise, we're going to end it there. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and we will hopefully talk to you again soon.
Thank you.